Hello and welcome back to this channel. Now, this week is an exciting week where we're going to do a bit of a first impressions video on this camera here. This is the Electro 35, the Yashica G, and this camera is an absolute perler. I'm not going to go into too much detail right at this intro, but I just want to go through a few points and go over some photos over the last week that I have been shooting this and just tell you about my first impressions and what I think about this camera and why it could be good for you. So let's waste no time and get into some review of the photos that were made. So we're actually going to start off with the aesthetics of the camera. And as you can see here, this camera has such an amazing looking body and such a distinct style in the way that it is built, and the fact that it's just a giant rangefinder as well. I love the little leather casing that comes with it, and it has a hood as well, which I'll show you in this next section. But big, giant lens, just the whole image of this camera is just so strong and so 70s like vintage. I really, really like it. It serves no practical purpose, these aesthetical features, but I really enjoyed this camera. And over the week, it's been such a pleasant thing to have on the side of your, bag or over your shoulder or around your neck. It's almost, as much as it is a little bit shallow to say, it is like an accessory, and it has such a distinct look, and I really, really enjoyed just the form of this camera. It's square, it's flat, it's really heavy, it's just block, it's solid, and all round a sturdy feeling body. The next thing I want to talk about is generally the fact that it's an electrical camera. And you might think that that could be a disadvantage for this, but in no way is it a disadvantage. It tells you just on the camera at the top, it tells you in body while you're looking down the viewfinder whether it is under or over, which I appreciate so much, which is really, really great. So those things light up there, and they also light up within the rangefinder as well. So you can tell whether you're over or underexposed for that shot, whether it's going to be slow or whether it's going to be too bright. And that's really great. The other thing that I really appreciate about this camera is the fact that you can set your ISO. So there's no DX code jargon that you have to cover up your film or create some kind of DX code cheating to make sure that it realizes that it's actually lower. I can just shoot this 400 Portra that you're about to see some images from. I can shoot all of that at 200 and just have that one stop of overexposure that is so beautiful on Portra. So some of these photos I really adore, and it shows that this camera has such a crisp lens. But the problem with this camera, while making photos of this camera in a bit more of a studio and setup environment, I couldn't get close enough to my subject. Now, this would be no issue in a portrait scenario. I didn't take many portraits, but in a portrait scenario, this should be no issue at all. But when I was photographing objects, I couldn't get close enough to my little still life or my camera bodies that I was trying to make photos of. It was a little bit frustrating in the results, and I misfocused so many times. It was a pain. And with the lens in a low light situation going down to about 1.7 of an f-stop, if you misfocus, it really hurts in the long run. So that is something to consider if you are going to shoot a bit more close up to things. This is in no way a macro camera. You definitely need some distance between the camera and the subject. So that is something to consider when thinking about getting an Electro 35. Another point that I want to bring up is the fact that it is a rangefinder, and for me, it's very not intuitive experience shooting through a rangefinder camera. I've never done it before, so I keep putting my eye just on the body of the camera, expecting to be able to look down a viewfinder, which is quite awkward and a bit embarrassing if you're in the street trying to look through the body of your camera. But it is certainly a new experience, and particularly in the model of my version right now, the quality of that rangefinder and the dot for focusing is very, very clear, which has been very helpful because I've shot on other rangefinders with blurry, ruined dots. on there and you can't really see what you're focusing on. So this is much better for me, and it made it more or less quite easy to hit focus when I was taking photos outside. All in all, my first impressions of this camera have been exceptional. I've enjoyed having it on me. I've enjoyed shooting with it. I've enjoyed the sound of its shutter. I've enjoyed so much about this camera, and I've enjoyed the fact, most of all, that you don't have to think while you're shooting. It's very simple to just literally line up and focus on framing and then take the image that you are there for. It'll tell you if you're under, it'll tell you if you are over. Other than that, if you just cleverly set your ISO, you'll be able to get in there and really set the camera up so that it performs perfectly for you, whether that's overexposing or underexposing. But it's been a real journey using this camera, and I'm very excited to share this video. If you have any questions about the Electro 35, please put them in the comments below. I'm happy to answer anything from my personal experience. Just remember that this is my own personal experience, my own personal bias. Every camera is different for everybody, but I have really liked using this camera. So thank you for watching this quick review of the Electro 35, the Yashica G. It's an absolute gem of a camera. So if you ever want to pick one up, let me know if you have, or if you already own one, tell me what you think. So thanks for watching this video. Cheers.